Okay, inaugural episode of Just the Tip. I like that name.
I do too.
It's like cool. And so the thought is, and the reason behind it, for one, there's a whole lot of ways to promote that. And we can have a lot of fun with promoting like the whole Just the Tip thing. But beyond that, so this podcast, this YouTube series is going to be not a how-to kind of guide, but it's just going to be a kind of a video series where we talk about relationships. And believe me, this isn't a hey, we've got it all figured out, because I promise you,
we're learning every single day.
Yeah, she's learning more than I am, but we're learning. No, there's parts of our relationship that are phenomenal and great. There's parts of our relationship that aren't so great, but we're constantly working on them. So what we thought would be cool with this video series is to kind of talk about some of the things that we found that's worked for us, that's been beneficial, that's been helpful, and then also bring in other like creators that you may know from social media and do some interviews. We've already got a couple of cool ones lined up that I'm excited about, working on a few more. But what we're going to do interviews with them and kind of talk about in their relationships, in their life, the things that they found to be successful and beneficial. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So if you can't tell by now, if you're watching this on video and not just listening to the audio, I like to talk on camera. Nikki is not so much there with it. So we'll see how it goes. We're definitely, I'm all in on this. I think this is going to be a great idea and help a lot of people. And additionally, like help our relationship. So I mean, as we're talking about the things that have benefited us, but as we're doing these interviews, I'm sure there's going to be tons of awesome ideas from some of these other creators that they do that we don't do that maybe can help benefit our relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. We're going to have to draw this out of Nikki. I've got a feeling that as we go through this series, we're pushing her to get out of her comfort zone a little bit. This isn't something that she's necessarily naturally drawn to doing, but I think it could be a great perspective to have us both in these conversations. So for the first episode, it's just going to be Nikki and I. And I thought what we would do is keep this episode kind of short and just be an introductory episode before we start getting into interviews and talking to other people. And I'm sure there's going to be some of those. There's going to be some just Nikki and I, potentially even just some of me talking when I have thoughts and things like that. But we want to put this content out there because I think in this day and age, too many people give up on their relationships so easy. Too many people, and don't get me wrong, like there's situations and there's abuse, there's bad circumstances that lead to divorce, but I almost, at least to me, when I look at society, it's almost, there's a lot of circumstances, and again, if you're out there, you've been divorced, I'm not talking, like I'm not throwing shade, because believe me, I come from a family of divorces. I don't think I have anybody in my family. Yeah. Like, do you have anybody, I guess your sister.
My sister, yeah.
Other than that, like, there's not really been anybody from either one of our families that have made this thing work forever. I mean, my grandparents did.
I've had some, like, obviously Aunt Marge, Uncle Don, and my other aunt. But I think with a lot of just people in general, they're always drawn to social media, and they think, we post everything that's positive most of the time, so everybody has this perception of people and they think that everybody has it right going on at home, but I mean there's ups and downs with everybody. So
yeah, we
have our ups and downs.
Yeah, we
just don't post the downs.
Yeah, and it's not that we don't want to be authentic or anything like that. It's just out of respect for one another. I mean,
right.
there's some pretty big portions of our relationship with Nikki and I that like I'm not happy with and would want to see changed. Just like I'm sure she could say the same thing about me, but I'm not going to blast that out there on social media and impact our relationship. Just like I'm grateful that she doesn't do that to me, because that could get bad. But yeah, babe. So we're gonna have to talk a little bit louder when you're talking. I'm not sure if the camera's picking you up. We'll find out in later on, but. This is the introductory episode, people. We figuring this out. And if you're wondering why we're just like propped up against a wall, So we're remodeling our house right now. We're redoing the kitchen, tearing out a wall, putting in beams. Like in our house is everywhere we would sit to do like this video / podcast is
it's covered with plastic.
Yeah. So we've got, and if you're watching on video, I'll give you a quick look. So yeah, this is what's going on in our house right now. So not very conducive to a good atmosphere for a podcast. But anyhow. So I thought what we would do on this first episode is both Nikki and I just give kind of one tip, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to relationships that we feel like is beneficial for people to know, and that if people would deploy this, that it could strengthen their relationship. So do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first, just
okay.
In case, like, I don't want you to steal mine. I will say that you need to know their love language.
Okay.
That's not what you were going to say, is it?
It's kind of, sort of, but not really.
Yeah, like, as long as you know their love language, I mean, if you can fulfill whatever it is they want, I mean, they're going to be happy the majority of the time. I know a lot of times with our relationship, my love language is gifts and physical touch.
I would say yours are gifts and quality time.
Yeah, but yeah. So I guess like.
And on the gifts one, again, if you're on video, yeah, that's me trying to fulfill her love language. Sorry.
You want it to.
Yeah, I do.
But a lot of times, like, I forget his love language, and I'll use my love language to him, and then.
Yeah, it doesn't jive.
It doesn't jive, yeah. So you have to know their love language.
Yeah, hugely important. Like my love language is physical touch, and I'm telling you.
And words of affirmation.
And words of affirmation. Physical touch, far and away, being the strongest one. Like if 3 days go by where we don't have specific hubby wife time, when I tell you it does things in my head and my mind starts going to dark places that I do not like. When I say physical touch, I mean like it's hardcore physical touch. But equally, like with that, I think the important part of that is like Nikki said, the love language thing is hugely important. But when you know your partner's love language and you've had conversations around trying to be a great spouse and things like that, they know you know their love language, you know they love your love language, and when you don't provide that to them, it feels like a slap in the face. It feels like your spouse doesn't care in those situations. Mentally, we can know that that's not the case, but emotionally, it's hard to make that disconnect. So, like Nikki, I know Nikki's love language is gifts. She knows that I know her love language is gifts. So if I don't give that to her, if I don't provide her those gifts, to her, it's going to come across like, and when we say gifts, like this doesn't mean like super elaborate, expensive things. It means, you know, like one day I was at a sportswear store, a cute little pair of socks. It cost me like $10-15, something like that. Oh, I think Nikki will like those. I picked them up for her. Like those are the kind. It doesn't have to be some big elaborate gift. At least I hope not, because.
No. I've never been like that.
I know.
It's just the thought, like you're thinking of the other person.
Yeah.
In whatever situation you're in.
Right. So if I know her love language is gifts, she knows that I know her love language is gifts, and I make the choice not to do that for her and love her in that way that we've discussed, and I know that she wants to be loved. Like that's gonna be worse than if I never knew her love language in the first place. It's going to come to her like, hey, I know he knows this is what I want, but he's choosing not to do it with me or not to provide it for me or whatever the case may be. So as hugely important as it is to know your partner's love language and employ it, it's important for multiple factors, both on the good and bad. What do you think?
I agree.
Cool. We're going to draw a conversation out of her. I promise you. We're going to open her up.
Touch.
Physical touch.
You are so big.
But you can't do it with the sarcastic voice, though. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. Okay, so mine, I would say my tip is, and it builds on. I wouldn't say builds on. It's related to the love language side of things, but I think it's empathy. And I try to teach our kids this. I think I'm failing as a dad in doing it, but like I try to teach our kids in such a hardcore way to be empathetic to other people. For everything that I've done in my life, the success I've had in the corporate world before I started my own company, the success I've had in sales, the success I've had in meeting people, networking with people, everything that I've done in life that has been successful has all derived from empathy. When you care about other people and you pay attention to how your actions are going to affect that other person and really take that kind of stuff into account, it makes all the difference in the world. You connect with people on such a deeper level. You connect with people in a way that a lot of times people don't take the steps to connect to. So with that said, and as it pertains to relationships, is, like I've got to pay attention to my wife. Like I've got to pay attention to and think about if I was in her shoes, how I would feel about what's going on, right? So like if she's had the kids all day and she stays at home with the kids, I love it. She's got a much tougher job than I do, trying to take care of our babies and 2-year-olds and all that kind of stuff. But if I get home from work and I'm like, hey, like, yeah, you're a stay-at-home mom, like this is all you, I'm going to make her feel undervalued. I'm going to make her feel like she isn't contributing to the family. Like there's so many negative things that come from that. So I've got to pay attention to the way my actions affect her, and vice versa. This goes both ways. Like this definitely goes both ways. Like if I tell Nikki that like, hey, like I like spicy pics randomly through the work week, and then she don't send me spicy pics through the work week, then like she's not taking into account how her actions are affecting me.
I forgot this week.
This week. But no, like in all seriousness though, paying attention to and thinking through, like all too often people just want to run instinctually, right? They just want to live their life with what feels, whatever they're feeling in the moment is how they act. And they don't pay attention to their actions having consequences, but so much so your actions have consequences. It's the way I try to pursue everything. I fail at this on a daily basis, but my goal is to be conscious and cognizant of how I behave and how I act. Am I being snappy with my kids? Am I losing my temper with my kids? If I'm disciplining my kids, am I doing that out of reaction and anger, or am I doing that out of a conscious choice? Am I doing that out of a conscious choice to try to craft them into the person that we're wanting to be? Like just right now, we told my daughter, hey, like if you're going to go outside and play outside, to make sure that you stay outside so that we can record this video and podcast. And instead of doing that, she just came back in with the 2 puppies that are starting to act crazy. So I'm going to make the choice not to jump on her for it and teach her why it's important to like produce content, do those things. So we'll create a teaching moment out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's life for you. Kids don't listen.
But yeah, so like with this show, it's going to be kind of an informal thing in the beginning. We don't know exactly where this show is going to go, how it's going to be crafted, what it's going to morph into, what it's going to grow into. And that was Walker, one of the dogs in the background, if you heard that like crazy cough. But we don't know exactly what this is going to become. I've got high hopes for it. I think with the branding of the Just the Tip name, like I think that is like super dope and epic and can be a lot of fun. But I think this, more so than anything, I think us covering these topics, not that we're the experts, but just kind of the mindset of if it takes a village. We're going to bring in a bunch of other people from divorced backgrounds to married backgrounds to dating backgrounds to to all these different situations and just have like open conversations about like what kind of things work in a relationship, what kind of things don't, where have you had struggles, where have you seen success, what things have worked best for you. And hopefully, through doing this, we're able to bring some value. And more importantly, hopefully through this, wifey wants to give more than 1 or 2 word answers, and we can get her conversation a little bit. No, Nikki is super fun and super awesome. And if you're listening, I promise I'm not just trying to rant and rave and hog all the spotlight. If you meet her in person and you're hanging out with us in person, if that ever gets to happen one day with some meetups and events or whatever, you'll see Nikki is a absolute ball, but she does get a little camera shy. So I definitely know, and I just want to kind of express to you, I'm super grateful that she's let me take the lead on this and following along and wanting to push herself out of her comfort zone, to try to do this and it be something that we can do as a couple and hopefully blow up into something great that can help a ton of people.
Just the tip.
I'm telling you, it's just the tip.